There was a band that would speak about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, but with a lapse, I forgot that yesterday was the disappearance day of Srivas Thakur, so I thought one day late, better late than never. Srivas Thakur. And what reminded me was this morning at 6:30, there was a class with the devotees in China. And today is our yesterday. There today is our yesterday. Or Monday evening was our Sunday. So they reminded me. The disappearance day of Srivas Thakur. So let us offer our obeisances to Prabhupada and to the Panchatattva. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutade Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prachari Paschatya Desatadine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The photograph is a photograph of Srivas Thakur in Mayapur. And down at the bottom right, that's the same deity, but the full size. The deities are about 8 feet tall, pretty big. I don't know how you must have a ladder to get up to put the crown and other head decorations for the deity. Srivas Thakur has a second name, Srivas Pandit. Srivas Thakur and Srivas Pandit, it's the same person, just the Thakur and Pandit are titles, and his name is Srivas. So here's the Panchatattva mantra, Srivas, at the end, Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, that's all of you guys. The assembled Gaura Bhaktas, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So, offering respect to everyone, headed by these 5 personalities. So we're going to hear something about who is Srivas and some of his pastimes in connection with the devotees, and particularly with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In Adi Leela, there's this nice description. There are innumerable devotees of the Lord, of whom Srivas Thakur is foremost. Now the photograph is the Utsav Murti of Srivas with palms folded before him. And either his appearance or disappearance day, there's an abhishek. So we can mentally perform our little abhishek for Srivas on his disappearance day. There's a book written by a great Vaishnava that is considered very authoritative. It describes everybody that's in Krishna's Leela has their personality in Gaura Leela, or vice versa. Everybody in Gaura Leela has their spiritual counterpart in Krishna Leela. For example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Radha and Krishna, or Krishna in the mood of Radha. And Lord Nityananda is Balaram. And Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani. And Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu, and Srivas, in Gauragunadesh Dipika, Srivas Pandit or Srivas Thakur is described as an incarnation of Narada Muni. And he has a brother, a younger brother, Sri Ram Pandit, is said to be an incarnation of Parvat Muni. So two friends became brothers in Gaura Leela. Srivas Pandit's wife, Malini, is celebrated as an incarnation of the nurse Ambika. The nurse Ambika fed Krishna with her breast milk. And Ambika became Srivas Pandit's wife, Malini. And Srivas Thakur had a niece. And the niece, we'll hear something further about Narayani, but she became the mother of Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat. And Narayani, who was the daughter of Srivas and his wife, she in Krishna Leela was Ambika's sister. We also understand from the description of Chaitanya Bhagavat that after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's acceptance of the sannyas order, Srivas Pandit left Navadvip, possibly because of feeling of separation, and domiciled at Kumarahata. Kumarahata is a nice place. Very nice place. Very sweet, very secluded, very simple, even today. Very nice. And there were two other brothers, Shripati and Srinidhi. So, Srivas, Sri Ram, Shripati, Srinidhi. Shri, 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 Shri. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, there were two personalities who were especially prominent in establishing Chaitanya's position in Navadvip, and that was Srivas and Advaita. Both were elder. Advaita Acharya was the eldest, and Srivas by age was something like the age of his father. And they were both householders. They had nice families. And together they were the head of the Brahmana community. Now, Advaita Acharya had one primary residence in Shantipur, and after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, he established a second residence. He was rather wealthy, so not far from the house of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Jagannatha Mishra, his father. So just down the road a little bit, Advaita Acharya had Advaita Bhavan, and then much further away, in the same area, Shantipur. Both places had very significant role in Gaura Leela. That's Advaita Acharya, and Srivas had a special place in his Gaura Leela. That is, whenever the initial point where sankirtan was being performed in Navadvip, it was at the house of Srivas. So it wasn't like this, like a home gathering, and it's. Some of you have been, and those of you that have not been to Mayapur, there's a big gate. It's common in Bengal, in India in general, big wall, and then a gate to let people in or keep people out. And then over to the side, there's a mandap, like a covered area with like a rooftop but open to the air, and then within there is the altar. So that's where they would perform kirtan, but it kind of grew and grew and grew and outgrew the house of Srivas. There's this statement later in Adi Leela, Avirbhava is a particular manifestation of the Lord who appears even though he's personally not present, meaning his pastimes were not current, but he would still appear because when kirtan was performed, he would sometimes make his appearance. When Srivas Thakur performed sankirtan, everyone felt the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even in his absence. They felt his presence, so it's a certain manifestation of the Supreme Lord, Abhirbhav. So now we have some idea of who he is in Krishna Leela and Gaura Leela, and his little bit about his role in the Mayapur, the Navadvip pastimes, the early childhood, before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. Pastimes. So up to the age of 24. So from the time that he was born, in the portion of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Advaita Acharya and his wife came, Srivas Thakur and his wife came, and they worshipped the Supreme Lord at the time of his appearance. And then there's this kirtan. Later, after some time, he became Nimai Pandit, a teacher, and then we don't hear so much about Srivas, but as soon as he began kirtan, we hear a lot about Srivas, because he, Srivas Thakur or Srivas Pandit, he was Narada Muni. He is a nurturer of kirtan, so he provided the place, and the system was only Vaishnavas, and they locked the gate so that non-Vaishnavas couldn't come in and disrupt things. That was initially. It evolved from that position. But there's a nice description of how the niece of Srivas Thakur received Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And it's said that Narayani used to eat the remnants of food left by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That had some profound effect, eating the remnants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just being with him, eating the remnants. And later, she became the mother of the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat. Now, before Chaitanya Charitamrita, there were other biographies of Lord Chaitanya's life. The first of them was this one, the son of Narayani, or Vrindavan Das Thakur. And his book was known as Chaitanya Mangala. And after some time, for different reasons, it became Chaitanya Bhagavat. And then after some time, Chaitanya Charitamrita was written. So that's a chronological sequence. But, eating the remnants of Mahaprasadam left by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we already heard this from that biography, Gaura Gunadesh Dipika. When Krishna was just a little baby, there was a mother, a nurse, Ambika, and Ambika's younger sister, Kulimbika, and Kulimbika in Gaura Leela as Narayani. So every evening, by the Lord's arrangement and Srivas Thakur's hosting, there was kirtan at the house of Srivas Thakur. And the persons that couldn't get in, because they weren't Vaishnavas, they felt left out. But they weren't in because they weren't Vaishnavas. And that means they could do mischief and so forth. So there was one such person that's described. Here's a little sign. They didn't have a sign like this because they're Bengalis. Every night for one full year, the door was closed, people who would come to make fun couldn't get entrance, and they became very envious. And one of those persons that became very envious was a Brahmana named Gopal Chapala. Gopal Chapala wanted to disgrace Srivas. So outside the gate that was locked, he put all the paraphernalia for worshipping Goddess Durga. So here's a painting of paraphernalia that people might use for worshipping Goddess Durga. On the upper portion of a plantain leaf, doesn't show the plantain leaf, he placed such paraphernalia as Oda Pula, turmeric, vermilion, red, sandalwood, and rice, and a pot of wine for Goddess Durga. And it came to Srivas Thakura's attention. Someone did this. So what did Srivas do? He went to the door and he addressed everybody that was standing outside of the gate. Gentlemen, every night I worship Goddess Bhavani. Since the paraphernalia for the worship is present here, now all you respectable brahmanas and members of the higher castes can understand my position. That's what he did, that's what he said. And the others took exception. They had some sweeper come clean it up and threw all the items far away and cleans the place because it's with wine. It's not suitable for a Vaishnava. And poor Gopal Chapala came down with leprosy. Blood oozed from sores all over his body. Germs, insects biting him all over his body. Pain, distress. He left Navadvip. One time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happened to pass by where he was. So he, Gopal Chapala, referred to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his nephew because Mahaprabhu at this time was young, so he called him his nephew, like we're family members. I am your maternal uncle in our village relationship. Please see how greatly this attack of leprosy has afflicted me. As an incarnation of God, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I'm also greatly unhappy, fallen soul. Kindly deliver me by your mercy. No. Oh, sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you. Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for many millions of years. You have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births. Mahavadanyaya, right? He needed some repentance. He got it. Time passed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. At his mother's request, he went to Puri. After Puri, he traveled in South India for 2 years. After traveling in South India for 2 years, he then desired to go to Vrindavan, but he made a little detour. He went to Ramakeli and met with Rupa and Sanatan and Anupam, the 3 brothers. And then he returned back through Navadvip. So when he returned back through Navadvip, he met the Gopal Chapala again. And then he relieved his burden. You have committed an offense at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur. You must beg for his mercy, and if he gives you blessings, and if you do not commit such sins again, you will be freed from these reactions. So he didn't like his leprosy position, and he was pretty humble by that point in time. So he went to Srivas, took shelter of the lotus feet, and Srivas forgave him, and miracle cure, his leprosy went away. And he didn't do it again either. There's another very wonderful pastime while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was still in Navadvip at the kirtans at the house of Srivas Thakur. One time, there was a kirtan that started in the evening and went all through the night and into the next morning and lasted for 21 hours. It's a celebrated kirtan. It was not just a planned, 24-hour kirtan program with different shifts of people at the microphone. It was just a spontaneous, ecstatic experience for everybody. And during this pastime, inspired by Mahaprabhu's ecstasy, there's what's called the Prakasha Leela. That is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the midst of the kirtan, left the kirtan, sat on the altar, the way it's described as the throne of Vishnu. He sat on the altar and ordered everyone, worship me. So they worshipped him. And Srivas Thakura was the leading person to perform the Abhishek of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after Abhishek, then, everything, garlands and new clothing and so forth and so on, everything, very ecstatic. And then, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was sitting on a cot, but he started exhibiting his transcendental opulence. He was showing his divinity, because people may have had their intuition, but now he was making it very clear. The same pastime is Vrindavan Das Thakur describes in Chaitanya Bhagavat in another section. And one by one, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would call names of different Vaishnavas and disclose to those different Vaishnavas some pastimes that nobody else knew, but he knew. One of those that's mentioned is there was a Vaishnava named Gangadas. That's a nice name, Gangadas. And Lord Chaitanya told him, do you remember? You never disclosed this to anybody, but out of fear of the Yavana king, you were afraid for the safety of your wife and your daughters. So I took your family. I was the boatman. There were no boats. I showed up. And I took you and your family across the river. And then I went back to Vaikuntha. This was before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. Although you told nobody of this, I knew. And he knew because he saved him. And many nice exchanges like that nobody, and they were astonished, but he's showing his divinity, his omniscience and almightiness, and he's not just a nice kirtan singer, is the personality of Godhead. One of the references in Chaitanya Charitamrita is a maid servant of Srivas. Her name was Dukhi, because she appeared to be sad. So he renamed her Sukhi. And she became very happy. He called Kolavechar Sridhar. Many of you know who is Kolavechar Sridhar. If you don't know, you should learn. Kolavechar Sridhar, like Haridas Thakur, was very humble, and he was constantly chanting, and his name was Sridhar, but the Kolavechar just describes what his occupation was. What his occupation was is he sat by the side of the Ganges, laid out a cloth, and sold banana products, because near his little grass hut where he lived, there was banana trees. So he climbed up the banana trees and got bananas, low overhead, and banana leaves. And then, because in Bengal, eating off banana leaves is quite common. And then he would take some of the leaves and make banana cups and banana flowers and, banana. And he would set all those things that anybody can get, just climb up the tree and you got it. But he would set by the side of the road and constantly chant. According to the pastime described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved him very much, but he performed funny pastimes. He was Nimai Pandit, and he would go and say, I'm a Brahmana, you give me all of your wares for free or at a fair price. And then they would bargain like a Vaishnava, a Vaishya, over the price. And Kolavechar would get frustrated and say, just take whatever you want. You're a Brahmin, I give in charity. No, I want a fair price. And they haggle, Vaishya talk. And they had deep, profound love. So during this Mahaprakash Leela, it's at night. And he asked the devotees, go fetch Kolavinchar Sridhar. I like this pastime very much. So there's no street lights. There's no cell phones, a little flashlight built into it. There's, nothing. Just completely dark. And there's a path. But even to see the path, how do you see the path in the dark? He said, Lord Chaitanya said, just listen to the sound, because all night long he's chanting. This is good evidence. Should you chant softly or chant loudly? Kolavechar Sridhar chanted so loudly that was like a foghorn. Just listen to the sound and you'll find him. So sure enough, as they're going down the road and down the road and down the road, and they heard his sound, they followed the sound. It's off the main road, back some distance from the road, and they found him. So they brought him to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he embraced him and disclosed facts about Kolavechar Sridhar that nobody knew, that he knew, but nobody else knew. And another very dear devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta was very devoted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he was one of the 5 people that went with him when he took sannyas. He was like very, very confidential associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he lived not far from Mahaprabhu's home, like behind and a little distance away. And regularly they would associate. He was older, Mahaprabhu was younger. So Mahaprabhu treated him like his father, and Murari Gupta treated him like the personality of Godhead. So it was a little conflict of their emotion or their relationship. And it's nice. There are many nice things. Many nice things. One time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Murari Gupta. And by the door of Murari Gupta, he kept a water pot with a cover over the water pot. So it would stay cool, but fresh water from the Ganga. And Mahaprabhu entered into an ecstatic mood. Murari Gupta was singing Vishnu Sahasranam, and when he was singing Vishnu Sahasranam and he came to the name of Varaha, he adopted the mood of Varaha. He showed the form of Varaha. He picked up, his body expanded into a gigantic Varaha form, and he picked up the pot and shouted, "Bring me wine, bring me wine." Murari Gupta was amazed. I don't have any wine. Showing the form of Lord Varaha. And then the ecstasy subsided and Nimai Pandit was embarrassed. I looked around. What happened? Said, you went into a fit of ecstasy. That's all that's happened. Don't worry. Said they're very intimate associates, Murari Gupta. Murari Gupta was devoted to Lord Chaitanya, and he was devoted to Lord Ramachandra. So one time Murari Gupta was visiting his home, Mahaprabhu's home, and Lord Nityananda was with him. So Lord Chaitanya made a request, Murari, you have such affection for me. Why don't you become a Krishna Bhakta? Here's a mantra. You can chant the mantra, become a Krishna Bhakta. So Murari went home. And he couldn't do it because he was a Ram Bhakta. And he tried and he tried and he couldn't sleep and he cried all night long. The next morning he came begging, please take this instruction away. I can't take my head away from the feet of Ramachandra. And Mahaprabhu appreciated you. You're a pure devotee. You have such dedication and devotion for Lord Ramachandra. All of us should be like you. So Murari Gupta was relieved. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought him to the Mahaprakash Leela and showed Murari Gupta his feature of Lord Ramachandra. Voila. Haridas Thakur, etc., etc., etc. He asked Advaita Acharya to give teachings in Bhagavad Gita, spoke special favor to Mukunda, and during one of the kirtans, Srivas Thakur's son died. It's one of these many, many, many rooms, and it's not just, it's a different kind of arrangement than houses in Naperville. So way in the back of the house was the room where his small son lived. And when the kirtan was going on, Srivas Thakur's son died. There was some disease spiked, and his son died. And Srivas heard that the son died, and when your son dies, the show stops. But not for Srivas. What's more important to Srivas was the kirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he forbade people not to make a sound, not to disrupt the kirtan. And when the kirtan was over, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was informed of the incident. And he felt there must be some calamity in this house. And Srivas, he was told by Srivas that my son died. And Mahaprabhu asked, why didn't you inform me? And he said, I didn't want to disturb the kirtan. More important to me than my son's birth and death is the kirtan. Pretty unusual. So what did Mahaprabhu did? He went to the back room where the son was lying. He placed his hand on his chest. The dead son, he spoke to him, my dear boy, why are you leaving the house of Srivas? The boy sat up immediately. I was living in this house as long as I was destined to live here. Now that time is over. I'm going elsewhere according to your direction. I am your eternal servant, a dependent living being. I must act according to your desire. Beyond your desire, I cannot do anything. I have no such power. And then he laid back down again. Hearing these words of the dead son, all the members of Srivas Thakur's family received transcendental knowledge. No cause for lamentation. That's Chaitanya Charitamrita. Pretty amazing. Lord Chaitanya, because of their age difference, Lord Chaitanya said to Srivas, you have lost one son, but Nityananda and I are your eternal sons. We shall never be able to give up your company. In other words, the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the heart of Srivas were so intimately linked. And with that intimate link, then pastimes that are instructive and otherworldly occurred. There's some mention in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a practice that some persons do. During Krishna's pastimes, there are 8 times of the day, ashta, kaliya, Leela. So during 8 times of the day, during this time, that time, the other time of the day, there's meditation. Sometimes devotees practice meditation on the pastimes of Krishna. So one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Srivas, "Bring me my flute." And Srivas replied, "Your flute has been stolen away by the gopis." It's their relationship, what can you say? So then he went on and described the pastimes during different times of the day between Krishna and his devotees, the gopis, of course, and others. And he went on and on and on, describing the pastimes of Krishna during different times of the day. Lord Chaitanya listened in ecstasy, and he embraced Srivas, and they became fully satisfied. But that's not it. There's more. One time there was a recitation. Srivas Thakura was reciting the Vishnu Sahasranam. Vishnu Sahasranam, 1,000 names of Vishnu. And when he got to the name of Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Chaitanya got immersed in the mood of Lord Nrsingadev. And in the mood of Nrsingadev, he ran through the city streets, club in hand, ready to kill the atheists, roaring. Didn't say he showed the feature like he did in Murari Gupta's home, the form of Lord Varaha. Doesn't say he showed Ugra Nrsinga running around the city streets. But he was in that mood. People ran because they were afraid of his anger. And when Srivas saw this, he approached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, asked him to throw away the club. Lord Chaitanya said to Srivas, "I stopped since causing fear among people is an offense." And Srivas replied, "Anyone who takes your holy name vanquishes 10 million of his offenses immediately. There was no offense in your appearing as Nrsingadev. Rather, any man who saw you in that mood was immediately liberated from the bondage of material existence." Srivas then worshipped Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was greatly satisfied, and went back home. Like transcendental pastimes, right? The intimacy between Srivas and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu it's absolutely remarkable. There was a circumstance in a nearby place. What is today's Navadvip is on the western side of the Ganga, and in that town that existed during Mahaprabhu's time, there was a learned scholar named Devananda Pandit. Unfortunately, Devananda Pandit had the influence of Mayavad philosophy. And although he had the influence of Mayavad philosophy, he was attempting to explain Srimad Bhagavatam according to Mayavad philosophy. It's not a good match. So when he was a good speaker. So he had a big audience. And Srivas happened to pass by, and he heard the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was very attracted. But when he started explaining the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srivas started to cry. And the followers of Srivas, the followers of Devananda Pandit, saw him crying, and they wanted to toss him out. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know of this, and he came to Devananda Pandit's place and chastised him severely for two reasons: speaking Mayavad philosophy and having his followers, allowing his followers to toss Srivas Pandit out of his assembly. So, it's a nice pastime. Recognizing this misfortune of Devananda Pandit, these two things, offending Srivas, we heard what Gopal Chapala happened, and speaking Mayavad philosophy in the name of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prakasha Pandit, who is another exalted personality in Gaura Leela, many, many nice things. We'll hear about Prakasha Pandit during the Festival of the Holy Name. A little bit more, a little different twist. But his particular celebrity or quality was he was a dancer during kirtan. And he would dance and dance and dance and dance and dance and jump in the air, and he could dance for 24 hours. Most people can't do that. And dance and dance and dance ecstatically. It wasn't just a performance, it was an exhibition of his ecstasy, hearing the kirtan. But he was also very learned. And so he gave compassion to Devananda Pandit. And when Devananda Pandit heard from Prakasha Pandit about the actual meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, not the Mayavadi interpretation, but the actual meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, and who was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in relation to Krishna, Devananda Pandit became convinced. And then from that time, he started speaking Srimad Bhagavatam as a Vaishnava. Compliments of Prakasha Pandit. Now, it doesn't say what happened because of his offending. Speaking Srimad Bhagavatam due to bad association is one thing. Offending Srivas, although he didn't personally do it, his followers did it. He was escorted from the Bhagavad Gita assembly. Not nicely. So it's an offense. Doesn't say anything about what happened, but he was rectified by Prakasha Pandit. There's another pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is having a discussion. Of course, I'm saying Nimai Pandit, before sannyas, Nimai Pandit, wanted to find out from Srivas, how do you maintain yourself? You have a big family, you have a big house. What's your income? So this is Chaitanya Bhagavat, towards the final section, Anjali Leela. One day Mahaprabhu asked Srivas, why didn't he endeavor at all to feed and clothe his extensive family? How was he maintained their livelihood? Srivas Pandit said, he did not wish to go anywhere to earn money, for whatever was destined would certainly happen. Interesting philosophy. Mahaprabhu said, Srivas, you should take sannyas. Srivas replied, I cannot do that. Then how you maintain your family members? Srivas is funny. He claps his hands and counted 1, 2, 3. Mahaprabhu asked him, please explain. Srivas said, if I do not get any food, even after fasting for 3 consecutive days, then I will tie a heavy pitcher to my neck and jump into the Ganges. 1, 2, 3. As soon as Mahaprabhu heard Srivas's words, he roared loudly and said, even if Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, happens to beg, you will not be affected by poverty. Did you forget my words in Bhagavad Gita? That anyone who thinks of me without deviation Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. I supply what they lack and preserve what they have. For someone who is personally maintained by the supreme maintainer of the entire universe, what anxiety will he have for food and cloth? I give you the benediction that even if you sit at home, all ingredients for Krishna's service will automatically come to you. 1, 2, 3. And there's more. Now this is Srivas with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, or Nimai Pandit. There's a pastime in Rath Yatra where Srivas would, with many of the devotees from Bengal, would go to Puri to join the Jagannatha Rath Yatra festival. So here's looks like a BTG photograph. That big line on the right side is where the page bends. But anyway, that's a pole, whatever it is. While the king beheld the dancing, King Prataparudra, they're all watching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing. Srivas, standing in front of him, in front of the king, became ecstatic as he saw the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing Srivas standing before the king, Harichandan touched Srivas with his hand and requested him, pardon me, but the king is behind you. Could you step aside so the king can have a better view of the kirtan? Srivas was so absorbed in the kirtan, without even looking, he just slapped Harichandan. And when Harichandan is like the soldier that looks after protecting the property of the king, or the body of the king. He's his bodyguard. Harichandan got angry. He's a Kshatriya type guy. And when he started getting angry, he was about to scold Srivas Pandit, but the king personally stopped him. Nice photograph of Lord Chaitanya dancing, and wanted to get a close look of Lord Chaitanya dancing in front of Jagannath. King Prataparudra said, "You are very fortunate, for you have been graced by the touch of Srivas Thakur. I am not so fortunate. You should feel obliged to him." So the mode of bhakti of intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Harichandan isn't as intimate as King Prataparudra. What to speak of Srivas? Now, one of the functions connected with Rath Yatra is the Hera Panchami festival. There's a deity of Lakshmi who's taken from the temple, Lakshmi Vijayotsava, and Hera Panchami, she's taken and brought before all the deities, right to the gate of Jagannath Mandir. This happens during the Rath Yatra festival. Here's the pujari taking the deity, and here's the Utsav Murti of Lakshmi. Srivas Thakur, enjoying the mood of Narada Muni, smiled while he was watching this festival. Just see how opulent my goddess of fortune is. He's in the mood of Narada Muni. Your gopis are engaged in boiling milk and churning yogurt, but my mistress, the goddess of fortune, sits on a throne made of jewels and gems. Na 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 na. Narada Muni. Srup Damodar then began a beautiful narration of the opulences of Braja. And hearing this, the opulence of Braja, Srivas Thakur was embarrassed. But he also began to dance in ecstatic love. And I don't know how to do this, but he put his hands under his armpits and started moving his arms up and down and make a loud enough sound that everyone was laughing. So, under the influence of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such as Srup Damodar. Now, who is Srup Damodar? Srivas is Narada Muni in Krishna Leela, and Srup Damodar in Krishna Leela is Lalita. So, very, very intimate associate of Radharani, Lalita, Lita and Vishaka. So, Srup Damodar knows all about the intimacies of Braja and the opulence of Braja. And a long description, very beautiful description, very exquisite description, very poetic and real. And Srivas was hearing and he liked. So here's our concluding slide. This is the same very tall deity in Mayapur with his palms folded. In each one of the Panchatattva, if you look at the altar, there's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, and Advaita. They're in the Vishnu Tattva category in different divisions of Vishnu Tattva. And then going the other direction, Gadadhar is Shakti Tattva, and here is Srivas, who is in Jiva Tattva category in the Panchatattva. So he's Narada Muni in Krishna Leela, but he's a very special personality, enjoying pastimes with Lord Chaitanya and enhancing Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And what do we know about any of this except for the mercy of our founder Acharya? So we'll offer our respects to Prabhupada once again at the same place where we began. And all of this is just to honor on the disappearance day of Srivas Pandit or Srivas Thakur, the particular role that he played in the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and revealing to us, to the world, the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in different ways. Just by spending the time that I spent today meditating on Srivas Thakur, I'm enlivened to go back and read Chaitanya Charitamrita again. Let's see, lots of Srimad Bhagavatam still remaining. See if there's some discussion. I see Sri Radhika's hand.
Maharaj, since we're observing the disappearance day of Srivas Thakur, is there any information about his disappearance pastime?
I couldn't follow.
Is there any information about Srivas Thakur's disappearance pastime?
Disappearance? The pastime of a disappearance? None that I'm aware of. Anybody in the room aware? Disappearance pastime? Huh? Anything else?
And similarly, Guru Maharaj, we start hearing of Srivas Pandit from the time he's a grahastha.
Yes.
Is there information about where he was born or family of origin? Anything?
I'll look it up, and if I find it, I'll let you know. Probably there is. There's the go-to place for information like this is there's a book written by one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's followers or disciples, and he has compiled a whole biography of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. There are other sources, but that's the principal source. So what I'll do, because you'll remind me, you send me a text message to remind me, because I don't always remember, to cut and paste and send. I'll send to you, and then you can circulate to others.
Maharaj, during the course of the lecture, at some point you had mentioned something that reminded me of this question, and that's that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one song, he writes how the devotee's main quality, and he says very emphatically that the devotee's primary quality is his compassion, is his mercy. And so some of Lord Chaitanya's associates are said to be, bhajanandis, others goshtanandis.
Yes.
But I was curious, given his definition, is there really something like a bhajanandi? Because they all exercise so much compassion. Like even Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, at
Yes.
certain point in his life, was meeting hundreds of people.
Yes.
So in what sense then do we understand that?
And what sense
Bhajanandi.
we understand what?
Bhajanandi. Because it seems like Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that the quality of a devotee is compassion, but the bhajanandis are also preaching. Like Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is described as a
Not all
bhajanandi.
bhajanandis do preaching. And that's kind of the thorn in the shoe.
Yes.
They go to a secluded place, or they pretend as if they're detached, but they're not attached. I mean, they're not detached, but do bhajan and do mischief at the same time. So, for that reason, I mean, for example, Bhaktivinoda Thakur took Babaji Vesh at a certain stage of his life, but even in that stage of his life, he's writing books, Bhajanandi, and for the benefit of the world. So it's part of his bhajan, the writing of books, and of course other things, the chanting and writing songs and everything else that he did. Deep immersion in Srimad Bhagavatam, but in a manner that would make that immersion available to others. So not everyone that's a Bhajananandi preaches. Not everyone that there are the term itself indicates separating oneself from the Goshtianandi position and immersing oneself internally in bhajan. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not keen on that. Bhaktisiddhanta was the more not into it, but he supported it. In fact, he did it himself, kind of, his Namavrata. But then after that, he accepted sannyas and vigorously preached. So the spontaneous mood is the exception. And with the spontaneous mood, then even for Bhajanandi, there's preaching. Because it's Krishna's happiness that's everything for such a person. Anything else?
I had one follow-up,
Yeah.
another one on, you mentioned Kola Vecha Sridhar
Yeah.
as pastime, and I've heard from a few devotees that something's very special about that pastime, and so I was just curious to know, why is that pastime so special? Like, what is it about that pastime that makes it very special? Is it just his simplicity, or because that pastime was just curious. I'm just it's a curious pastime for me.
Which pastime, the selling or the Mahaprakash?
Kola Vecha Sridhar as a whole, like
The whole persona.
like Kola Vecha Sridhar's.
There's many layers or dimensions. The outstanding one is the affection of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't go necessarily to people that were vastly learned or vastly influential or superlative in any way at all. Just a real meek, humble person. But the relationship was a relationship of love. So even when Mahaprabhu would go and tease him, Vaishya talk with a Vaishya, and just don't do this, just take whatever you want. No, give a fair price. So it's a loving exchange. It's just, that's my understanding. The specialness is the love, and regardless of one's position, that the exchange of love is everything for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and for any Vaishnava. I mean, it's a detail, but it's a nice detail. The very evening that he had already decided to take sannyas, Kolavechar Sridhar brought a gourd from the rooftop of his little cottage and brought it to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to have for a meal. And he requested Mother Sachi to prepare it for him. His last meal was Kolavechar Sridhar's pumpkin. Love. That's the special.
Maharaj, hearing all these pastimes, the great devotees of the Lord, I was thinking about whether the great devotees of the Lord, hearing all these pastimes, I was thinking whether will they go back to Godhead or will they be always in the service of the... Because I was just thinking about when Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he said that he, Tamal Krishna Maharaj came in the dream and he said, Prabhupada has service for you. Right? So like that, I was thinking all these great devotees, they're always in the service of the Lord, whether, so where is the question of going back to Godhead? They are just in the service of the Lord, wherever Lord takes them. I just had that thought. If you can comment on that.
Nice comment. This is my comment. The personality of Godhead reciprocates. And some, according to the heart of the devotee, the personality of Godhead reciprocates. And according to sincerity, he reciprocates, more intensely or otherwise, just because of your comment of this dream to all Krishna Maharaj, etc., etc. I remember very clearly a prayer that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj used to recite regularly, and that, the prayer of, what's the devotee? If you think, please deliver all the fallen souls. Vasudev Datta, yes. So he liked that prayer. So he prayed that the prayer was, please deliver all fallen souls. And if you think they're too sinful, transfer their sinful reactions to me. I'll suffer their reactions. Deliver all the fallen souls. So he used to pray like that, like genuinely. And guess what? He got cancer. So Krishna reciprocates with. I mean, he's a devotee doesn't get sinful reactions, but the Lord reciprocates with the devotee. So where he is, where he went, and where anyone might go after this body, after this lifetime, it's so much responsive to the desire of the devotee for being in service. So whether it's here, there, or another place, And there are different moods, and they're just fine that there's different moods. So that's being responsive to, you're reflecting, and I'm reflecting on your reflection. I think that's what you're asking me to do, yes? You want something further?
astonished about that. Always the question arises: even though Srivas Thakur's son died, it's completely self-realized soul.
Yeah,
It
completely.
doesn't matter.
Completely.
Whatever. Yeah.
Completely. Her question, the way in which Srivas departed this world, that question's got me thinking. I'd like to find out the answer to that. Because, yes, in responsive to your question, what was his desire? And based upon his desire, that's where he went. So what was it like? What was his parting? I mean, Grandfather Bhishma's parting episode and Haridas Thakur's parting episode. What was Srivas's? Anyway. Someone else? Yes.
Guru Maharaj, initially the kirtan at Srivas Angan was closed. It was only open for Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
Is there a significance to that?
Well, specifically, the language says some persons. Should I just do this? Yeah. As we know, for example, the Brahmanas went to complain to Chankazi. There are persons who are envious. So envious persons weren't welcome in the kirtan because they would heckle or disturb or make a mess. Now, later that changed. That we went out. The circumstance that changed it, in fact, was the smashing of the mridanga and the Chankazi. And so then it went public. The kirtan went into the street, not just behind closed doors. But initially it was just, incubate this wonderful experience. So Vaishnavas that were capable of being ecstatic were given that little bubble to be ecstatic together. And then gradually and gradually and gradually and gradually it expanded and went out the front gate. It's not the same, but it's a little bit like how Prabhupada started the Hare Krishna movement. He started at 26 2nd Avenue and then eventually went out to the public. Because the public wouldn't necessarily understand. And the devotees needed to be nurtured in that incubation stage so that their bhakti was sufficiently strong. They could deal with people doing and saying, disruptive things. Is that okay?
Yes, I was also thinking the opposite. Like initially in ISKCON, how kirtan was open to everyone, and then we hear about boiling the milk, condensing it.
Yeah.
And here in this case, it seems like
Well, what's the boiling the milk mean to you?
going deeper into our.
What does it mean to you? What does that mean to you, the phrase boiling the milk?
Deepening our practice?
My understanding of that phrase is there was the incubation stage, there was the expansive stage, and then expanding, where the milk became thin. So don't let the milk, let the quality of the members that we have now become stronger. Boil the milk. Evaporate some of the water so the character quality, core Krishna consciousness becomes stronger and a good foundation is built. Boil the milk. Less emphasis on outreach, more emphasis on quality practice, sadhana. I mean, the expansive sankirtan movement didn't stop. It certainly continued, but it was just a shift of emphasis or realignment of emphasis. So does that do? You still got some question?
And no, Guru Maharaj, I was just internally, I was trying to connect this other point. Yesterday at Sunday Feast, you had quoted a lecture of Srila Prabhupada where it said, we have to become fire-like, otherwise we could get burnt in the fire. So I'm just connecting that, it's, to me, to become fire-like is to develop those Krishna conscious
Yes.
qualities. And
Yes. As Krishna is supremely pure, to enter into the realm of purity, you have to become pure. To enter into fire, you become fire. Otherwise, if you're not becoming pure, you'll burn. You'll have a problem. So, yes. More? Okay, good.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering about the fact that you mentioned that how Srivas Thakur was an incarnation of Narad Muni, and so I was wondering, and also, we see situations like that, like Murari Gupta. He's he's a worshipper of Lord Ram. So Srivas Thakur's role is very intimately
yeah.
united with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, but he's in a different mood.
It's okay.
It's okay.
That's just like within Krishna is everything, within Mahaprabhu is everything. And the essence of the relationship is love. And there's this kind, that kind, the other kind, and it's just fine to have different kinds. The object is the same, and the flavor is a little different. Each devotee, a little different, or a lot different. I mean, like, it's a nice example of this is the Mahaprakasha Leela. Mahaprabhu knew, and like that little reference here, he asked Advaitacharya to give the discourse on Bhagavad Gita. Because Advaitacharya is a very, very learned person. And, that's their reciprocation. One, he shows his form of Ramachandra. Another one, he asks him to give a Bhagavad Gita class. Another one, he reminds him that I protected your wife and daughters to cross the river when the king was coming with his armies, and you were so. Just different exchanges according to person's situation, but the emphasis is pulling the heartstrings, the loving affection. In different moods of love. No, someone else. Jagatananda up front. He's got a microphone already. He's magic.
There are myths about what mercy is. I mean, in many of the questions that we get asked about Mahaprabhu, he's called, as you said, he's Namo Mahavadanyaya, but some of the pastimes are mystical. And so there are myths about what compassion is and how it should be, delivered, when it should be delivered, etc. So I'd like to hear more about that. And then also, secondly, although the devotees and the Lord are most compassionate, how can we not feel entitled, for their compassion in a particular way that it should come?
I just gave a whole 3-part seminar on compassion, and the compassion of Mahaprabhu was in 2 parts. So I rather than have me give that class again, each of them an hour and a half. You can go back and listen. They're different. You know, what we might do in a given situation is not necessarily what Mahaprabhu would do in a given situation. You know, like Gopal Chapala and his rot for millions of lifetimes with worms. So, but then he lifted that disease, which was the result of his offense. So different ways. But ultimately, the Maha Vadanyaya is he would give Krishna prema in each circumstance. Okay, we'll end. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.